I shot my uncle in the knee at Dad's retirement party. Right there in the VFW hall with the meatball trays going cold, and the American flags drooping like they'd seen too much. The room froze, forks midair. Ants gasping into their plastic cups of Boone's farm, while he crumpled, howling like a kicked dog, blood pooling on the checkered linoleum that still smelled of last week's bingo night. And as the cops swarmed in later, sirens wailing through the Jersey suburbs, I leaned down and whispered, "This is for Dad. You son of a bitch. Real men don't just own businesses. They bury the ones who steal them." The confetti cannons popped like gunfire just an hour earlier, showering the hall in red, white, and blue streamers that stuck to the sweat on everyone's brows. Dad stood at the podium, his liver-spotted hands trembling on the edges of a plaque that read, 35 years of loyal service to Newark Steelworks. He was 68. Gaunt as a rail from the chemo that hadn't quite stuck the landing on his pancreatic cancer scare last year. But tonight, he was king for a fleeting goddamn minute, beaming under the fluorescent buzz. His tie straight for once, voice cracking as he thanked the union brothers who'd carried him through 3 recessions and 1 mill fire. I sat in the back row, nursing a flat Budweiser, my loafers pinching like they always did at these family circuses. 34 years old, still crashing on Dad's sagging couch in Elizabeth, New Jersey, with a resume that read like a rap sheet of dead-end gigs, line cook at the diner on Route 1, bouncer at that strip joint in Linden, even a stint hawking knockoff Ray-Bans from a van in the Newark Ironbound. To the family, I was the black sheep, the kid who'd flunked out of community college after 1 semester of delusions of grandeur, as Aunt Marie liked to call it. But they didn't know the half of it. None of them did. Uncle Ray, that's Raymond the Ray Kowalski, self-proclaimed kingpin of Kowalski imports, lounged at the head table like he owned the joint. Which, in a way, he kinda did. He'd bankrolled half the party's catering, the open bar, even the DJ spinning Springsteen cuts between speeches. Ray was the success story, the one who'd clawed out of the same Polish-Irish tenement row houses as Dad, but turned it into something shiny, a fleet of semis hauling knockoff electronics from the ports into strip malls across the tri-state. From rags to yachts, he'd quip, flashing that gold pinky ring shaped like a bald eagle. Tonight, he was in his element, polo shirt stretched over a gut earned from too many steakhouse deals, his laugh booming over the clink of glasses. Dad wrapped up his speech with a lump in his throat, toasting the family who'd kept the lights on when the plant went dark. Eyes misty, he locked onto mine across the room, and I raised my bottle just a fraction, our secret signal, the one we'd used since I was 10, when he'd sneak me into the mill after hours to watch the sparks fly from the arc welders. "You're gonna build something bigger than this furnace, kid," he'd say back then, wiping grease from his brow. I nodded tonight, same as always, but inside, the acid churned. Bigger? Yeah, Dad. But not without burying a few bones first. The applause died down, and Ray lumbered up to the mic, clapping Dad on the back hard enough to make him wince. "Eddie bro, 35 years grinding rebar for chump change? That's loyalty. But let's be real." He paused for effect, scanning the room like a preacher working a tent revival. "Real men don't punch clocks. Real men own the damn factory. They build empires, not excuses." Chuckles rippled from his cronies at the bar, guys in Ed Hardy shirts with tattoos peeking from cuffs, the kind who smelled like cheap cologne and cheaper bail bonds. Ray's eyes flicked to me then, just for a beat, that smug curl at his lip. "Ain't that right, nephew? Time to stop dreaming and start dealing." The words landed like a sucker punch, but I kept my face neutral, fingers tightening around the bottleneck until the glass creaked. Around me, cousins shifted uncomfortably. Aunt Marie muttering about poor Jake, always the punchline. But Dad? He just chuckled it off, waving it away like Ray's bullshit always got waved. That's how it was with them, blood thicker than the rust flaking off the mill walls. Ray had been the golden boy since they were kids stealing apples from the corner bodega, the one who'd talk Eddie out of his lunch money with a grin and a promise to double it by Friday. Promises Ray never kept. But Eddie never held grudges. Not until the end. I slipped out for air as the DJ cranked up Born to Run, the bass thumping through the cinderblock walls like a migraine. The parking lot was a sea of rusted F-150s and sensible sedans. Sodium lamps buzzing overhead, casting long shadows that swallowed the chain-link fence around the old VFW softball field. I lit a Camel, inhaling deep, the smoke curling like the lies I'd been choking down for years. It had started small, back when I was 22, fresh off that community college dropout. Dad's mill was circling the drain, Chinese steel flooding the market, union strikes turning ugly, and Ray swooped in like the family savior. "Lend me the kid, Eddie," he'd said over beers in the garage. "Jake's got that fire in his belly. I'll show him the ropes. Get him into imports. We Kowalskis stick together, right?" Dad bought it hook, line, and sinker. I didn't. But for him, I went. Ray's office was a warehouse in Kearney, stacked to the rafters with crates of bootleg DVDs and knockoff Nikes. The air thick with diesel fumes and desperation. He had me running manifests at first, falsifying dates, underreporting weights to dodge customs. "It's just paperwork, kid," he'd say, clapping my shoulder. The feds don't give a shit about a few discrepancies. But it escalated quick. One night, a shipment from Shenzhen hit the docks. Not just fakes, but heroin bricks vacuum-sealed in the hollowed-out heels of those sneakers. Ray's eyes lit up like Christmas. "This is the big leagues, Jake. You in or out?" I was in. For Dad. The mill was down to skeleton shifts, and Ray promised a cut that could float Eddie's mortgage. "Keep the lights on." I drove the runs myself, ghosting semis up I-95 to Philly drop points, heart hammering every time blue lights flashed in the rear view. We cleared $100,000 that first year, laundered through Ray's legit imports. Dad never asked where the sudden windfalls came from. He just wept when I slipped in the checks, calling me his little miracle worker. But miracles have a shelf life. 2 years in, the feds got a tip some low-level mule Ray stiffed flipped like a bad pancake. Raid hit the warehouse at dawn, SWAT piling out of vans, barking orders through bullhorns. I was there, inventorying a pallet of counterfeit Rolexes, when the doors blew. Ray? Nowhere. He'd ghosted the night before, citing a family emergency. Left me holding the manifest with my name scrawled in Sharpa, the one he'd forged to make it look like I was the kingpin. They dragged me out in cuffs, the gravel biting my knees, flashbulbs popping from the press vans already circling like vultures. Jake Kowalski, 24, arrested in massive heroin ring bust, the Star Ledger screamed next morning. Dad aged 10 years overnight, chain-smoking Pall Malls in the kitchen while lawyers bled us dry. Ray surfaced a week later in Florida, spinning tales of business trips to Aunt Marie, wiring just enough cash to keep the wolves from the door but never enough to clear my tab. The plea deal stuck me with 3 years at Rahway, fights in the yard, shank scars on my ribs, nights staring at the bunk above, me wondering if family was just another word for felony. I got out at 27. Paroled early for good behavior. But the stink clung. No one hired an ex-con with a face like mine. Too honest-looking to trust,
they said.
Dad scraped by on disability. The mill shuttered for good after the layoffs.
Ray?
He pivoted seamless, rebranding Kowalski Imports as a green logistics outfit, schmoozing grants from the state for eco-friendly hauls. By the time I was crashing on Dad's couch, Ray was yachting off Atlantic City, his pinky ring upgraded to a diamond-encrusted falcon. That's when I started building it. Not for glory. Not at first. For Dad. Late nights in the basement. Dad snoring upstairs. Me hunched over a scavenged laptop with Wi-Fi jacked from the neighbor's unsecured router. Code I'd picked up in the joint from a hacker lifer. Simple at first. Scraping eBay listings for arbitrage flips. But I saw the angle quick. Ray's supply chain was a sieve. His imports were riddled with fakes. But the real gold was the data, the manifests he sloppily digitized, the vendor lists he emailed unsecured. I reverse-engineered it all, posing as a freelance consultant on Upwork, worming into his servers with phishing hooks disguised as invoice attachments. By year 2, I had the skeleton, Shadow Forge logistics.
No warehouse.
No semis, just algorithms predicting port delays. AI optimizing routes for third-party haulers. A blockchain ledger that made every transaction tamper-proof and tax-deductible. I bootstrapped with Dad's old mill contacts, undercutting raise rates by 20% on clean runs. Clients trickled in, boutique shops in Soho needing just-in-time drops. Startups dodging Amazon's stranglehold. Revenue hit 6 figures by month 18, all funneled through anonymous LLCs in Delaware. I called it my ghost empire, untouchable, invisible, growing in the dark like mold on Ray's lies. Dad knew none of it. Keep your head down, son, he'd say, ruffling my hair like I was still that wide-eyed kid.
But Ray?
He smelled blood. Started dropping by unannounced, checking on his brother, but really sniffing for weakness. Last Christmas, he'd cornered me by the tree, eggnog breath hot on my face, still hustling gigs.
Jakey?
When you gonna man up like your old man wishes? I'd smiled then, teeth gritted, because the app on my phone was already siphoning his latest client list, real-time, irrevocable. Tonight,
though,
at the VFW, it all converged. Ray's toast hung in the air like exhaust, his eyes daring me to bite back. I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I waited for the cake cutting, the obligatory family photos under the God Bless America banner. Dad's knife sliced into the sheet cake, vanilla with blue icing stars, laughter bubbling up as frosting smeared his tie. Ray posed behind him, arms slung possessive over Eddie's shoulders. The picture of fraternal pride. That's when I made my move. Slipped into the coat check alcove, the one with the flickering bulb and stacks of folding chairs. My piece was a snub-nose .38, bought off a guy in the prison yard reunion circuit, no cereal, cold as Ray's heart. I'd carried it for months, a talisman against the what-ifs. But tonight, it felt like destiny, heavy in my palm. Back in the hall, the speeches dragged, union rep droning about pensions, cousins toasting with sloshes of rail whiskey. Ray held court at the bar, regaling a cluster of retirees with tales of his latest deal in Miami. Flipped a condo for triple. Boys, real estate's where the money hides. Laughter. Backslaps. I circled the perimeter. Pulse steady. The .38 tucked in my waistband like a guilty secret. Dad caught my eye again, waving me up for photo. I obliged, forcing a grin as the Polaroid flashed me. Him. Ray sandwiched between, arms linked like we were the fucking Waltons. Smile bigger. Jakey, Ray muttered through his teeth. You look like you swallowed a lemon.
Click.
The moment frozen. Betrayal in triplicate. As the crowd thinned toward the dance floor, Springsteen fading into some Sinatra knockoff, I positioned myself. Ray excused himself to the John, weaving through the tables with that cocky swagger. I followed, casual, grabbing a fresh beer from a passing tray to mask the intent. The hallway was dim, lined with faded photos of VFW parades, guys in fatigues, long gone to dust. Ray pushed into the men's room.
Door swinging half shut.
I waited a beat, then shouldered in. He was at the urinal, humming off-key, zipper halfway down. Uncle Ray, I said, voice flat as Jersey asphalt. He startled, twisting without flushing, that ring glinting under the harsh light. Jakey? Christ, you sneak up like a goddamn spook. What's up? Need to borrow 20 for gas. I didn't laugh. Just pulled a .38, thumb cocking the hammer with a metallic snick that echoed off the tiles. His eyes widened, piss forgotten, hands fumbling up in surrender. Whoa.
Kid, easy.
This a joke? Eddie put you up to this. For Dad, I said, and squeezed. The shot was muffled by the din from the hall, but up close, it was thunder, muzzle flash, blooming orange, the acrid bite of cordite filling the stall. Ray buckled, knee exploding in a spray of denim and red, collapsing against the sink with a porcelain crack. His scream ripped out, raw and animal, echoing down the corridor. I stepped back, gun smoking, the weight of 15 years crashing down. Footsteps pounded, partygoers spilling in, phones whipping out, chaos blooming like the blood seeping across the floor.
Jake.
What the fuck? Someone yelled. Cousin Tommy? Face pale as milk. Ray writhed, clutching his leg, face twisted in agony and disbelief. You little shit. You're dead. You hear me? Dead. Cops were there in minutes. The hall cordoned off with yellow tape fluttering in the December chill. I didn't run. Sat on a folding chair in the corner. .38 surrendered without a fight. Wrists cuffed loose behind me. Dad shuffled in last, supported by Aunt Marie, his face a mask of horror and confusion.
Sans Jesus.
What be you done? I met his eyes, the ones that had believed in me when no one else did. Ending it, Dad. For good. As they hauled me out to the cruiser, sirens slicing the night, Ray's curses chased me into the cold. But in my pocket, my phone buzzed, notification from Shadowforge, another client on board. Revenue spiking 15%. The empire ticked on, oblivious, unstoppable. They booked me into county lockup by midnight, the intake buzzer droning like a dirge. Cell was a 6x8 coffin, bunk sagging under graffiti from cons who dreamed bigger and fallen harder. Sleep didn't come, instead. The reel played, Ray's face crumpling, Dad's broken stare, the confetti still drifting like ash in my mind. Morning brought the suits. ADA with a clipboard, public defender smelling of stale coffee and lost causes. Attempted murder. Kowalski. Family dispute gone south. Your uncle's lawyered up, claiming self-defense. But ballistics don't lie. That's premeditated. I nodded through the Miranda haze, saying nothing. Let them build their case on the surface. the hothead nephew cracking under years of resentment. But the real story? That was mine to wield. A scalpel in the dark. Bail hearing was a circus, Ray on crutches, bandaged like a war hero, milking the sympathy from the judge. My own blood, Your Honor, tried to kneecap me over a toast. Kid's unstable. Always has been, Dad testified next. Voice quavering. Begging for leniency, but unable to meet my gaze. Jake's. He's had it rough. The time inside changed him. Bail denied. Back to the cell, where whispers from the block confirmed Ray's spin. Kowalski Jr. flipped, shot his own uncle at a party. Family's toxic as hell, but isolation breeds clarity. By lights out, I'd mapped it. The revenge wasn't the bullet. That was punctuation. The real gut punch was the reveal, the empire I'd forged from his scraps, the data I'd mined from his veins. Shadow Forge wasn't just a company, it was his ghost, haunting every deal he'd chased. Week 1 blurred, visits from Dad, tearful and sparse. Marie railing about ingratitude. Ray stayed away, but his proxies didn't, a PI sniffing around my old haunts. Subpoenas for my finances. I lawyered up with a shark from the joint network, one who specialized in flipping narratives. Then the twist. A guard slipped me a burner phone, courtesy of an anonymous well-wisher. Message lit the screen. Board meeting tomorrow.
Kowalski apport hémorragique client.
Shadow Forge undercutting by 25%. Your move, boss. I smiled in the dark. Game on. The arraignment hit like a freight train, me in an ill-fitting orange jumpsuit, shackles clinking as the bailiff marched me into the Essex County courtroom. It was a Tuesday, gray rain sheeting the windows, turning Newark into a watercolor smear of despair. Reporters crammed the gallery, notebooks flipping like hungry mouths, the air thick with the scent of wet wool and desperation. Flashbulbs popped as I shuffled to the defense table. My public defender, now upgraded to that joint shark. Mickey Ruiz, whispering odds like a bookie. Please your best bet.
Jake.
5 to 10 with good behavior. Ray's pushing for 20. I glanced at the prosecution bench. Ray's attorney, a silk stocking from Short Hills, preening with affidavits. Ray himself perched in the front row, crutches propped like trophies, his face a mask of righteous fury, bruised eyes, lips curled in that perpetual sneer. Dad sat one row back, alone, his overcoat draped like a shroud, staring at his lap as if prayers could unspool the bullet. All rise, the bailiff barked. And Judge Harlan, a grizzled vet with a comb-over and a rep for hating family dramas, took the bench. Charges rolled out. Attempted murder in the first, aggravated assault with a firearm. The works. Ruiz countered with heat of passion, painting me as the prodigal son pushed to the brink by years of belittlement. My client's uncle mocked him publicly. Your Honor, emasculation in front of family. It's not premeditation, it's a powder keg igniting. Harlan's gavel cracked like Judgment Day. Remand continued. Trial date set for March. No bail, flight risks off the charts. Cuffs tightened as they led me out, but not before I locked eyes with Ray. He mouthed it slow. You're fucked. Back in county. The block buzzed with my saga, concentrating details like baseball cards, some nodding respect for handling family business, others clucking about loose ends. I kept my head down, working the phones during yard time. Ruiz feeding me updates, Ray suing civilly for millions, spinning the party as a calculated ambush. But the real war was economic. Shadow Forge servers hummed in the cloud, Automated alerts pinging my burner. Client defections from Kowalski imports accelerating. My rates, predatory low. Thanks to pilfered intel sucking them dry. I started leaking. Subtle at first, anonymous tips to trucking forums. Insider posts on Reddit's r/logistics about Kowalski's shady reroutes and ghost shipments. Then bolder, hiring freelancers on the dark web to deepfake Ray's voice into voicemails, strong-arming vendors. Pay up or the feds get the logs, the AI Ray growled, seated across his contact list. Chaos rippled. Suppliers ghosting. Banks freezing lines of credit. Ray's empire. That shiny facade. Cracked like cheap chrome. Dad visited that Friday. Separated by plexiglass and a handset greasy from 1,000 regrets. He looked smaller. Swallowed by the visitor chair. His voice tinny through the line. Why?
Son?
Raise your blood. He forgives, says it'll blow over if you apologize. I pressed the receiver closer, searching his eyes for the steel I'd grown up idolizing. Forgive? He framed me. Dad. That raid? His dope. His manifest with my name. I took the fall so you wouldn't lose the house. 3 years gone. And he wires pity change like I'm a stray. Dad's face crumpled. Denial flickering like a bad bulb. Ray said it was a mix-up, bad blood with a supplier. He pulled strings to get you paroled early. Lies, I said. Soft but steel-edged. Check the dates. Dad. The wire transfers? They started right after, laundered through your name, to keep the IRS off his scent. You're complicit, even if you didn't know. He recoiled, handset slipping.
God. Jake.
What VE we become? Survivors, I replied. Visit Ray's lawyer. Demand the books. For me, he didn't come back for a week. But when he did, his eyes were haunted. A man who'd peeked behind the curtain. It's true, he whispered, voice breaking. The ledgers. Hidden in a safe at his office. Your name everywhere. But the cuts went to offshore accounts. Mine too, small ones. For emergencies. I thought it was bonuses from the mill. Rage boiled in me. But I tamped it, fuel for the fire. Good. Now use it. Call oppressor. Tell the ledger about Kowalski imports dirty roots. Leak the safes combo, July 22nd, 45. Dad's birthday. Let the vultures feast. He nodded, tears carving tracks down his cheeks. This ends it? For us. It starts it, I said. And as the guard tapped his watch, I added, love you, old man. Build something clean with what's left. The story broke Sunday. Kowalski imports linked to decade-old drug scandal. Family whistleblower speaks. Dad's photo beside it, stooped but defiant, quoting anonymous sources on the frame job. The safe's contents spilling like guts. Manifests.
White as stoops.
Even a burner phone log tying Ray to cartel contacts in Juarez. Shares tanked.
Client bolted.
The feds circling like sharks scenting chum. Ray's yacht got repoed by noon, his Short Hills McMansion under lien. But Ray was no fool. Monday morning, Ruiz burst into the consult room, face flushed. Your uncle's counterpunching, filed for bankruptcy protection. But not before transferring assets to a shell in the Caymans. And get this, he's claiming Shadowforge is his. Says you stole his proprietary algorithms during that warehouse stint. IP theft. Jake. Could bury you deeper. I laughed. Cold and sharp. Let him. I've got the receipts, timestamps proving I built it from scratch. Open source scraps and elbow grease. But poke that bear. And his skeletons dance.
Ruicide Meweri.
This a war or suicide? Ray's got connections, cops. Judges. The kind that make pleas vanish. It's chess, I said. And I'm 3 moves ahead. That night, the burner lit up, not an alert, but a call. Unknown number. Voice distorted but unmistakable. Ray. Clever. Nephew. Dragging Eddie into it? Low blow. But you think this cripples me? I've got backups, real ones. Not your ghost in the machine. Static crackled. Then a click, like a safety disengaging. Apologize.
Publicly.
Or next visit. It's not Dad in the paper, it's him in a box. The line died. I stared at the wall. The concrete etched with tallies of lost days. Fear?
Yeah.
A sliver. But mostly, resolve, hard as the shank scar on my ribs. Ray flipped the script, but I'd written the sequel. By week's end, the pressure mounted. Anonymous threats scrawled on my cell door. Snitches get stitches. Kowalski. Yard time got tense. Cons who'd warmed to my tail, now side-eyeing me like tainted meat. Ruiz pushed the plea harder. 7 years. Eligible for parole in 3.
Take it.
Or Ray's goons make county hell. I held out, plotting in the margins. Shadowforge's AI was evolving, now scraping Ray's bankruptcy filings in real time, predicting his next shell game. I authorized a kill switch, flood his servers with junk data. A digital DDoS masked as migration errors. By dawn, his ops ground to a halt, trucks idling at ports, invoices bouncing like bad checks. Ray retaliated swift. A witness emerged. A former warehouse grunt swearing I'd masterminded the heroin runs. Not him. Jake called the shots. Ray was just the front. The press ate it up. Headlines twisting. Nephew's revenge or drug lord's double-cross? Dad called Ruiz frantic. They're saying Jake's the monster now. Ray's on every channel. Crutches and all. Playing victim. Stay the course, I told Ruiz. Leak the grunt's Jivy record. Bought and paid by Ray. And activate Phase 2. Phase 2 was the hook, a Shadowforge subsidiary, rebranded as Kowalski Clean Hall. I'd seeded it months back, poaching Ray's ethical clients with promises of transparent chains.
Now,
with his empire crumbling, I flipped the board, offering to absorb his remnants at fire sale prices. The email went out at midnight. Be CC'd to his board. From the family that knows your secrets. Join or get left in the dust. Responses flooded by mourning, defections, buyout feelers. Ray's phone, monitored via a Trojan I'd planted years ago, exploded with panic. Who the fuck is Shadowforge? One exec texted. Ray's reply, find them. End them. But endings? Those were my specialty. Trial prep ramped up, depositions stacking like cordwood. Ray took the stand first in the prelim hearing, crutches thumping the floor like war drums. Jake always resented me, jealous of success. That shot, it was coming since the raid. He's unstable. Your Honor, building grudges like bombs. Cross came gentle. Ruiz lobbing softballs. Mr. Kowalski. About that raid, your manifest bore Jake's name. Care to explain? Ray shifted. Sweat beading. Clerical error. Kid was green. I covered for him. Covered? By letting him serve 3 years. The gallery murmured. Harlan's eyebrow arching. Then my turn. Shackled but steady. I faced the room, Ray's glare boring holes. Uncle Ray taught me everything, I said. voice even. How to lie on forms, dodge tariffs, run dirty cargo. The raid? He vanished. Left me the fall guy. The party toast? Last straw. But the real crime? Stealing Dad's faith in both of us. Harlan adjourned with a bang, but the damage stuck. Jurors whispered in the hall, doubt seeding like weeds. That night, Dad smuggled in a note via Ruiz. Proud of you.
Son.
Ray's cracking called me sobbing. Said to tell you, Uncle. I burned it in the toilet swirl, ashes swirling like confetti redux. Uncle? Never again. The tide turned slow but inexorable. Shadow Forge's valuation hit 8 figures. Venture scouts circling from Silicon Alley, whispers of acquisition by a Maersk subsidiary. Ray's bankruptcy imploded. Creditors clawed back the Cayman transfers. IRS audits peeling layers like an onion. He holed up in a Jersey City motel. The Eagle Ring Pond. His empire reduced to a laptop and grudges. But Ray was cunning. A weasel in wolf's clothing. He flipped allies next, charming the union rep who'd testified for Dad. Now recanting with tales of coerced statements. Then the deep cut, a forged email chain, leaked to the press, showing me plotting the shot weeks prior. Nephew's murder plot unravels Kowalski clan. Public opinion splintered, forums ablaze with justice for Ray versus family mob expose. Dad weathered it stoic, but I saw the toll in his visits. Weight dropping, cough deepening. Ruiz cornered me pre-trial. Jury pool's poisoned. Plea now 8 years max. Or risk it all. I weighed it. The bar's closing again. Dad fading without me. But surrender? That was Ray's game. No, I said. We go nuclear. Nuclear was the vault, a dead man's switch on Shadow Forge's core drive, keyed to my biometrics. If I fell, it all dumped. Ray's full ledger. Cartel ties. Even the hit he'd put out on that snitch mule years back. But activation meant burning my empire too. Clients would scatter.
Veche Bolt.
As jury selection loomed, the burner rang again, Ray. Unfiltered this time. Voice whiskey rough. Enough.
Jake.
Meet me. Neutral ground. End this without more graves. The motel address followed. Trap? Probably. But closure? Maybe. I greenlit it through Ruiz. Pleading mediation to Harlan. Released on monitored house arrest. Dad's address. Ankle bracelet humming like a leash. I drove the old mill pickup through sheets of rain. Wipers slapping time to my pulse. The Jersey City dive was neon flicker and regret. Vacancy sign buzzing. Parking lot pocked with oil stains. Ray waited in 207.
Door Alyar.
Crutches leaning like sentinels. He looked diminished, gut softer. Eyes hollowed. A tumbler of bourbon sweating on the nightstand. Jakey, he rasped as I entered. No gun this time, just the weight of blood between us.
Seat.
Drink. I stayed standing. Door at my back. Talk.
He sighed.
Theatrical. You're winning.
Kid.
Assets gone. Rep in the toilet. But Eddie's dying, cancer's back. Aggressive. You want that on your soul? Drop the switch. I'll confess, the frame, the dope, all of it. You walk. Build your ghost whatever. Family first, right? The hook sank deep. Dad's cough echoed in my skull. The plea a siren song. But Ray's eyes? They danced. That old cunning flickering. Why now? I pressed. Because I'm tired, he said. Voice cracking just a hair too perfect. And because… shit.
Jake.
That company? Shadow Forge? It's brilliant. Let me in, silent partner. We merge. Rule the lanes together. Laughter barked out of me.
Bitter.
Partner? After you left me to rot. He leaned forward. Crutches forgotten. Survival. Nephew.
You get it now.
Real men adapt. The room spun then. Betrayal's echo. I saw it. The wire on his lapel. Mic'd for a sting. Feds in the van outside. Flip the script one last time. Record my admission. Trade my empire for his freedom. I smiled slow. Adapt.
Huh.
All right. Uncle. Partners. His relief washed visible. Hand extending. I took it. Grip iron then twisted, yanking him forward as my free hand snatched the bourbon, smashing it across his temple. Glass shattered. Liquor and blood spraying. His body slumping limp. Sirens wailed distant. Too late. I rifled his pockets. Recorder crushed under heel. Phone smashed.
Outside. Tire squealed empty van.
Ditch decoy. Back home. Dad waited on the porch. Rain soaking his flannel. You okay?
So.
Better, I said, helping him inside. It's over. But over? In America. Nothing ends clean. The call came at dawn. Harlan's clerk. Mistrial. Ray's dead, overdose. Motel room.
Apparent suicide.
The paper screamed. Tragic end to Kowalski feud. Shadow Forge sword. Acquisition sealed for 9 figures. Dad passed peaceful 6 months later. Mortgage paid. A trust for the grandkids he'd never meet.
Me?
I walk free. Empire mine. But nights. The shot echoes, the knee, the glass, the lies. Real men build.
Sure.
But what of the ruins left behind?
No. Wait.
That's the hook. The real end? Twist sharper. The funeral for Ray was a farce. Closed casket under a tent in the Roseland Cemetery. Rain pattering on the vinyl like guilty fingers. 50 mourners at most. Mostly holdovers from his warehouse days. Roughnecks in ill-tied ties. Widows dabbing eyes more for the free deli spread than the man. No press this time. The overdose narrative stuck. Despondent over bankruptcy, glossing the blood-crusted tumbler shards the cops had overlooked in their sweep. I stood at the fringe. Black suit pinching. Ankle bracelet finally clipped off that morning by a smirking probation officer. Clean slate. Kowalski. Don't fuck it up. Dad was there. Frail in his wheelchair. Oxygen mask hissing soft. He'd insisted. Family closes ranks, but his grip on my arm trembled. Eyes darting like he expected ghosts to rise from the sod. He was my brother.
Jake.
Flawed. But blood. I finished, guiding him to a folding chair.
Yeah.
Thick till it ain't. The priest droned platitudes. Raymond Kowalski. A provider. A fighter, while Ray's second wife,
Tanya.
sobbed theatrically into a lace hanky. She'd stuck around for the will reading. No doubt. The one where Ray's lawyers would divvy scraps from the Cayman dregs. I pitted her a beat, blonde ambitions snared in a Jersey trap, then dismissed it. Pity was a luxury I'd bankrupted years back. As the casket lowered, a hush fell, broken only by the squeak of my loafers shifting gravel. That's when I felt it. Eyes on me. Not from the crowd, but peripheral. a figure in a hooded slicker by the wrought iron gate. Face shadowed. Foam glinting as it captured the scene. Paparazzi holdout? Or worse, Ray's ghost. Unfinished business. The reception was bleaker. VFW Redux. Minus the confetti. Meatballs swapped for cold cuts on styrofoam. I nursed a seltzer at the bar, fielding condolences like live grenades. Tragic. Jake, you're doing? Cousin Tommy slurred, breath rank with grief beer. I shrugged it off. Life's a bitch. But inside, the calculus ticked. Ray's suicide bought peace. But peace in America is just a recess between rounds. Dad pulled me aside near the dessert table. Voice a wheeze. The trust. It's set. Shadow Forge shares vested in me. Then the kids if. Well, he trailed, eyes wet. You did right by us.
Son.
But Ray's note, found in his effects.
For you.
He pressed an envelope into my palm. Yellowed legal. Sealed with Ray's eagle ring wax. I pocketed it, nodding thanks, but the weight burned through denim. Later, in the pickup's cab, rain sluicing the windshield, I slid it open under the dome light. Jake, if you're reading this, I pulled the trigger myself. No heroes here. But know this, the frame was mutual. That raid? You greenlit the dope run, begged me for the cut to save Eddie's ass. I took the heat off you, forged the manifest clean. Gratitude's a one-way street.
Ha.
Shadow Forge? My code. Kid. Scraped for my servers while you learned the ropes. Steal from family. Pay in kind. Forgive?
Nah.
But build big. Real men do.
Ankel
Bullshit. The words blurred. Rage coiling like barbed wire. Mutual? I'd been 22. Desperate. Not the architect. But doubt wormed, memories fuzzy from years back. Ray's voice in my ear. Your call. Jakey. In or out? Had I nodded too eager? The envelope fluttered to the mat. Accusations hanging heavier than the storm. Home was a split level in Elizabeth. Dad since 78, peeling siding. Creaky stairs. The basement now my war room. Triple monitors glowing with Shadow Forge dashboards. Revenue streams pulsing green. I poured a scotch neat as the lies, and fired up the deep dive. Ray's claim? Traceable. I pinged the servers, timestamps on the pilfered data predating my consultant gig. But the core algo?
Mine.
Birthed in Rawway on smuggled graph paper. Iterated in Dad's basement with freeware Python. Still, the note gnawed. By 2 a.m., paranoia peaked. That hooded watcher at the grave?
No coincidence.
I scrubbed the cams. Neighborhood ring feeds hacked in minutes, spotting the figure. Mid-40s. Scar on the jaw. Circling the house thrice weekly. Ray's PI? Or the mule's kin? Grudge fermenting? Sleep dodged me. Replaced by plans. Shadow Forge's next phase. Expansion into drone delivery. Partnering with Amazon defectors hungry for independence. But first, loose ends. I called Ruiz at dawn. Ray's note authenticate. And tail that Scarface. Quiet. He grunted assent, billing hours ticking. Dad stirred upstairs. Calling down for coffee, routine masking the rift. Over mugs at the Formica table. He probed gentle. The letter? Burn it.
Son.
Past is past. Past pays the bills, I said, forcing levity. But his cough rattled deeper. A reminder, time's the real thief. Weeks blurred into empire building, boardrooms in Weehawken lofts. VCs in bespoke suits sniffing equity. Shadow Forge hit unicorn whispers, $1.2 bill valuation. Forbes profile pending. From ex-con to logistics lord. I played the redemption arc. TEDx invites stacking. But knights? The .38 stayed loaded in the nightstand. A talisman against shadows. The Scarface struck first via proxy. Brick through the picture window at 3 a.m. Scrawled with thief. Cops wrote it vandalism. But I knew Ray's echo. Unpaid debts calling collect. Dad freaked, demanding I sell out. Cash the chips and run. I soothed him with home health aides. Private, $5,000 per month from the slush fund, but the fracture widened. Ruiz delivered on the tail. Scarface was Vic Russo. Ex-warehouse muscle for Ray. Now freelancing collections for South Philly wise guys. Ray owed him severance. Ruiz reported over encrypted line. Vic's leaning on you for the balance, plus interest on the betrayal. Meet or escalate. The meet was set. Abandoned warehouse in Bayonne. Ray's old haunt. Irony thick as the rust. I went armed.
Vest under Armani.
Ruiz parked a block out with a panic button. Vic waited in the gloom. Floodlights cutting shadows like knives. Two goons flanking, tattooed slabs with bulges under jackets.
Kubowski, big rollout.
Scar twisting like a sneer. Ray stiffed me, said you'd cover. The note? Your cue. I kept distance. Hands visible. Ray's debts die with him. Walk away, I'll wire $50K. Clean. He laughed. Gravelly. 100. And the servers. Ray's cut of your ghost.
Clockwise.
The Algo in my earpiece whispered. 2 vans inbound. Plates tied to Philly plates. Trap. Make it 75, I countered. Edging back. Final. Vic's eyes narrowed, signal. Goons lunged, but I was faster. .38 barking twice. Knees folding like Rays at the party. Vic dove for cover behind crates. Return fire splintering wood. Ricochets whining. I bolted for the side door. Lungs burning. Rain slicking the loading dock. Tires screeched. Ruiz's Escalade fishtailing in. Door yanking open. Drive, I yelled. Piling in as bullets pinged the chassis. Sirens wailed distant. But we ghosted into the night. Bayonne fading in the mirrors. Feds or locals?
Ruiz Panted.
Hands white on the wheel. Neither, I said. Reloading. Vic's crew off books. But Ray planned it. The note was bait. Back home. Dad waited. Shotgun across his lap. Old Mill Remington. Loaded. Heard the shots on the scanner, he said. Voice steady for once. Finish it.
Jake.
Or it finishes us. Dawn brought warrants, not for me, but Vic. Bodies cooling in the warehouse. Traced to a cold case hit from '09. Ray's first import gone south. Shadow Forge's PR machine spun at gold. CEO foils mob shakedown. Logistics innovator fights back. Valuation spiked. But the cost? Dad's health cratered. Pneumonia from the stress. ICU tubes snaking like accusations.
He said Vitil.
Monitors beeping times theft. Whispering apologies for the empire built on borrowed bones. Vic vanished. But his shadow lingered. Anonymous dumps to the press. Ray's real logs. Cherry-picked to paint me as the dope Don.
Forum United, Kowalski Kovrup Trending.
Petitions for my arrest. VCs hedged. Board whispers of optics. Ruiz counseled retreat. Go public, full confession. Frame as survival. Spin the redemption harder. But confession? that handed Ray the win from the grave. Instead, I doubled down, leaked Vic's cartel ties, tied to Ray's Juarez runs. The feds bit. Indictments unsealing, posthumous for Ray. But his legacy tarred. Dad rallied brief. Discharged to hospice care, his call.
Die home.
We talked then, raw under the eaves. Springsteen low on the stereo. Proud.
Son.
But was it worth it? The blood. Worth the light in your eyes? I lied. Throat tight. Rest now.
He passed at equinox.
Autumn leaves scraping the gutters like farewells. Eulogy was mine, standing room only at the same VFW. No shots this time. Eddie Kowalski built with hands, not code. Taught me family ain't blood, it's the forge. After, the envelope resurfaced in his effects. Ray's note. Annotated in Dad's shaky script. Lies.
Jake.
I knew. Forgave. Love you both. Tears then. Hot and unbidden. Forgiveness? A luxury. But maybe, just maybe, a start. Empire hummed on, Shadow Forge rebranded Forge Legacy, Dad's name etched in the charter. But the hooded figure? Spotted again at the graveside. Phone down. Now a notebook, reporter, digging for the book deal. I approached casual. Writing history or fiction? She smirked. Mid-30s. Sharp as a stiletto. Truth's grayer. Mr. Kowalski. Ray had a daughter, off books. Miami. Says you're the devil. Twist uncoiled. Ray's spawn. Revenge cued. The game? Eternal. The reporter's name was Lena Voss, freelance for Vice. With bylines in The Intercept that read like indictments of the American underbelly. She lingered after Dad's burial. Notebook tucked under arm. Rain beating on her leather jacket like accusations. Off the record first, she said, lighting a clove cigarette that smelled of spice and suspicion. Ray's kid, Lila Kowalski. 19. Art student at UM. Says her dad called her the night he died. Rambling about the nephew stealing everything. You game for coffee? Or do I run with the devil angle? I sized her. Eyes green as fraud alerts. Stance coiled like she expected pushback. Devil's overdone, I replied, zipping my coat against the chill. Try Phoenix from the frame job. There's a diner on 1 and 9 neutral. Greasy. Hour? She nodded, exhaling smoke rings that haloed the headstone. Bring your ghosts.
Jake.
I'll bring mine. The diner was a time capsule. Naugahyde booths cracked like old skin. Jukebox crooning Patsy Cline. Waitresses with beehives and attitudes. Lena slid in opposite, ordering black coffee. No sugar. Life's sweet enough a lie. I stuck to water. Ice clinking like chains. Start with the raid, she said. Recorder whirring discreet. Ray's logs paint you as the brains. Text from your burner. Double the bricks next run. Fakes, I countered.
Come. Ray es up me the mule.
Check the timestamps. My texts post-date the plea. He scrubbed his.
Pined mine.
She leaned in. Scent of cloves invading. And the note. Mutual. That's motive for murder. Not suicide. Suicide my ass. I smashed his mic. Left him raging. Overdose? Convenient. Covers the cartel heat Vic brought. Her pen scratched furious. Vic Russo, your bullet wounds match the warehouse DOA's. Self-defense or cleanup? Survival, I said, meeting her gaze. Ray's debts. My inheritance. She paused. Recorder clicking off. Off record. Lila's got proof. DNA test. Ray's will addendum naming her silent partner in Kowalski Imports. Says you buried it in the bankruptcy. The gut punch landed. Ray with a kid? Hidden like a bad investment. Produce it, I challenged. Or it's tabloid fodder. Lena smiled wolfish. Tomorrow. Your place, bring the ledgers. Truce. Truce. The words soured, but I nodded. Back home. The house echoed empty, Dad's chair a void, hospice scent lingering like regret. I tore into the servers, Kowalski filings, cross-referenced with Ray's offshore ghosts. There, Lila Marie Kowalski, beneficiary on a Miami trust.
$200 skimet prekoleps.
Silent? Bullshit. She'd been the Cayman conduit. Art student cover for mule runs. Burner buzzed Ruiz. Feds circling Vic's bodies. Alibis hold, but whispers of your .38. Ditch it. Ditched in the Passaic by midnight. Splash anonymous as Ray's end. Sleep came fitful. Dreams of pinky rings dissolving in acid. Lena arrived noon sharp. Portfolio under arm. Lila's photo peeking. Wayfish. Dyed blue hair. Eyes like Ray's, cunning veiled in youth. She's scared, Lena said. Spreading docs on the kitchen table. Ray cut her out post-bust. But she hacked his emails, found the framed job confessions. Wants in on Shadowforge. Equity. Not cash. I scanned the addendum, holographic. Ray scrawl. To Lila. 10% silent in all ventures. Blood right. Forged? Maybe. Legit? A noose. Kid's a ghost, I said. No claim without probate. Lena's eyes hardened. Probate's your game, lawyer to bury. Lila sues. Drags her empire through mud. Or partner up, family 2.0. Family. The word clawed. I poured coffees. Buying time. What's her angle? Revenge porn or trust fund? Justice, Lena replied.
Sipping.
Ray romanticized the hustle, told her you were the villain who stole Daddy's dreams. But the logs? She sees the truth. Wants to rewrite. Rewrite. Tempting. A fresh page. But trust? Scar tissue. Meet her, I said. Neutral. Miami. My jet, Shadowforge perk. Lena's brow arched. Bold. She's game if you fly solo, no Ruiz. No muscle. Solo it was. Private strip in Teterboro, by dusk. Gulfstream humming, first class sin. Leather seats swallowing me whole. Miami heat hit like a slap at dawn. Humidity thick. Palm fronds whispering secrets. Lila waited at a Coconut Grove cafe, sundress faded. Sketchpad doodled with semi-trucks morphing into monsters. Eyes wary over ice latte. Uncle Jake, she said. No warmth. Or should I say, thief, he said, signaling the waiter. Lila. Heard you paint trouble, she snorted. Flipping the pad, abstracts of cargo crates bleeding red. Dad's legacy. You killed him. He killed himself, I corrected. Gentle. Bourbon and bad choices. But the frame? His too. Hours unspooled, stories swapped like contraband, Ray's absentee tales. Her mom's overdose when she was 10. The art grants that funded co-eds but traced to dope cuts. He promised equity, she said, voice cracking. Said Kowalski blood owns the roads. Blood's messy, I replied. But roads? We can pave clean. 5% in Forge Legacy, advisory. Not silent. Art on the branding. Your touch. Her eyes lit greed or hope. And the truth? Lena's book, full expose. Guided, I hedged. Redemption arc. Not rag. She extended a hand.
Ink stained.
Deal struck. But as I boarded the jet, doubt gnawed. Kids' sketches had barcodes. Scannable to raise old manifests. Player or pawn. Back in Jersey. The Empire pulsed. Q4 projection soaring. Drone tests greenlit in Nevada deserts. But cracks spidered, board pushback on family drama, a VC pulling funding over, reputational risk. Ruiz warned, Lila's a wild card.
Vet här.
Vetted, clean. But her prof? Ray's old mule. Coaching from shadows. The game deepened. Then the split. Lena's draft leaked, partial. Incendiary. Kowalski's shadow empire. Built on betrayal and bullets. Forums fractured. Forge fraud versus Jake Hero. Readers picking sides like a Rorschach war. Lila called, raging. You fed her lies. I'm out. Protecting you. I soothed. But the line died cold. Dad's hospice nurse found the anomaly. Old mill photo. Back scrawled with Ray's hand. Eddie knows the safe. His sin too.
Sin?
The wires, Dad's bonuses, complicit after all. Grief twisted to fury. I confronted the grave. Shovel in hand under moonless sky. Dug shallow. Ray's marker mocking. No body disturbed. Just catharsis. Dirt under nails like truth. Lena texted coordinates. Abandoned airstrip. Midnight. Lila's there. Endgame. I drove. .38 resurrected. Paranoia justified. The strip was fog-shrouded. Prop plane idling. Lila silhouetted with two shadows. Vic's remnants?
No, Fitz.
Badges glinting. Jake Kowalski, lead agent, barked. ATF windbreaker. Hands up. Lila flipped. Witness protection for the logs. Betrayal 2.0. Lila stepped forward. Eyes dead. Dad's note?
Real.
You greenlit it all. I have the texts, your burner. Fakes. But lethal. I raised hands slow. Mind racing. Dead man switch. Phase 3. Dump everything. Burn the board. But as cuffs clicked, Lena emerged from the fog. Notebook down. Wait, it's a sting on the cartel. Lila's bait. You're the closer. Chaos. Agents swarming the plane. Cartel mules spilling out, guns blazing. I dropped. Returning fire, 3 down. Niche shots echoing Ray's end. Lila huddled. Whispering sorry. Uncle, rewrite needed this. Dawn broke bloody. Feds hauling wreckage. ATF lead clapped my shoulder. Civilian assist, metal pending. Logs seal the case. Kowalski imports dissolved. Lila's approached.
Tear-streaked.
Partner still. I nodded. Empire intact. But scarred. Blood paves rough. But yeah. The book dropped bestseller. Shadows on the load. Lena's co-credit with Lila. My forward. Forged in fire. Family refines. But late nights. The switch stays primed. Real men build. Wiser ones watch the rear view. The medal ceremony was Washington Theater, J. Edgar Hoover Building. Polished brass and stars and stripes bunting. ATF brass beaming for the cameras as if busting a cartel cell was their daily cardio. I stood on the dais in a rented tux that hung loose on my frame. The weight of the engraved plaque, exemplary civilian cooperation, feeling more like a ball and chain than a badge of honor. Politicians clapped from the front row. Soundbites prepped about American grit triumphing over transnational crime. Lena sat third back. Notebooks swapped for a sleek recorder. Her smile sharp as ever. Lila? Absent, tucked in witness protection. Her art career, now a cover in some Midwest nowhere. 5% equity wired monthly to a blind trust. The director pinned it on. Grip firm. Mr. Kowalski. Your intel dismantled a multi-state network. Shadow Forge data. Game changer. Welcome to the fold. Fold meaning consultant gigs. Back-channel access. Uncle Sam's nod to my assets. I shook hands, flashed teeth for the lenses. But inside, the churn never stopped. Ray's ghost lingered in the plaque's gleam, Dad's cough echoing off the marble halls. Post-ceremony schmooze was a minefield, senators probing for donations. VCs circling like Remoras. That bust?
Pergol? Jake.
Let's talk Series C at 2 Bill. I demurred polite, escaping to the Potomac balcony for air that tasted of cherry blossoms and diesel. Lena found me there, cigarette dangling unlit. Hero now, or still the devil in disguise? I leaned on the rail, city sprawl mocking with its grid of lit veins. Hero's just the mask. Devil pays the bills. She lit up, offering a drag, cloves biting nostalgic. Lila settled, new name, new sketches. Says thank you, but watch your six. Cartel's got long arms. Long arms. The bust netted 8 mules. 2 kingpins extradited to Virginia lockup. But the head, the Juarez ghost Ray danced with, still vapor. My servers hummed with traces, burner pings to Miami shells, routes mirroring my drone tests. Coincidence? Or infiltration? Back in Jersey. The house sold, too haunted. Dad's chair auctioned to a collector of mill relics. New digs. Hoboken loft. Glass walls overlooking the Hudson. Shadow Forge HQ embedded like a tumor. Open plan bullpen of coders and hoodies. White bards scrawled with optimization fractals. I paced the corner office at midnight. Monitors bathing me blue. Projections stratospheric. But anomalies flickering, minor hacks. Probes from MX domains. Ruiz called from a DC bar. Voice sloshed. Metal buys grace. Jake, but feds want more. ATF liaison embedded. Advising on logistics security. Your call. Embedded meaning spy. Eyes on the prize. Let 'em, I said. Feed them ghosts, dummy routes. Keep the real clean. Clean was relative. Forge legacy expanded ruthless, acquiring Ray's remnants wholesale. Retooling semis with AI dashcams that fed behavioral data to insurers, premium slashed. Profits ballooned.
Client floqued, Walmart pilots.
DoD contracts for secure supply chains. Forbes crowned me, the ex-con king of cargo, profile gushing redemption. Glossing the bullets. But glory chafed. Dreams now, Ray's face in the motel mirror. Not dead but laughing. Bourbon glass refilling eternal. Woke sweating. .38 in hand, unloaded. A prop now. But muscle memory died hard. Lena's book tour hit Jersey hard. Reading at books are magic in Brooklyn. Crowd hipsters and true crime junkies dissecting shadows on the load like autopsy slides. I crashed incognito. Hoodie up. Back row. She spotted me mid-chapter, pausing on the warehouse shootout. Jake didn't flinch, bullets flew. But so did the truth. Hero or survivor? You decide. Q&A turned feral. Did Kowalski whack his uncle? Lila real or composite? Lena fielded smooth, Read between the loads, but cornered me post-event in the green room. Wine glass trembling. Showing face? Ballsy. Or bait? Bait, I admitted. Pouring Merlot. Cartel chatter up. Probes on Lila's safe house. Your book's a beacon. Her face paled under the vanity bulbs.
Shit.
I redacted. Redactions leak. I handed her a thumb drive, shadow-forged trace, Mexican IPs hitting her publisher's site, downloads spiking post-release. Ghosts inbound. Fly private, my jet. Teterboro. Safe house in Aspen. Off books. She pocketed it. Eyes searching. Why help? Devil's due. Rewrites collaborative, I said, echoing Lila. Can't have my co-author ghosted. She left at dawn. Kiss impulsive, cloves and regret. The loft felt emptier. Monitors mocking with their cold glow. Anomaly escalated. A coder flagged it. Insider breach. Employee ID spoofed. Siphoning route algos. I locked down. Audits firing. Culprit traced to a junior dev. Fresh from Rutgers. LinkedIn scrubbed, but ties to Juarez exchange programs. Sleeper. Confronted him in the server room. 4 a.m. Fluorescence humming accusatory. Who sent you?
Kid.
He cracked fast, sweaty. Stammering. Pays good grad debt. They call. I code. No names. Cartel tuition. I let him walk and signed NDA. Severance fat, but tagged his phone. Breadcrumbs to the ghost. Dad's birthday passed quiet. Ghost cake on the balcony. Single taper flickering. Toasted to the forge, but the wind snuffed it quick. That's when the call came. Burner. Mexican accent thick. Senor Kowalski. Your uncle owed us. Now you. The girl, Lila, starts the tab. Wires or wet work. Demands followed. 10 mil. Untraceable. Or Lena's Aspen idol ends red. Leverage. Photos, Lila's safe house exterior. Time stamped yesterday. I wired half, bait, through layered shells. Then activated the trap, Shadow Forge's predictive net, modeling cartel flows.
Pinpointing Juarez have.
Feds looped silent. ATF liaison greenlighting a join up, my data, their boots. The raid streamed live on encrypted feed, choppers thumping over desert. Seals breaching a maquiladora facade, crates of product, servers melting under thermite.
Ghost na Beth, el fantasma.
Ray's old dance partner. Face scarred like Vic's echo. Kowalski sends regards, the liaison radioed post-cuff. Backwash hit, headlines logistics mogul crushes cartel, ATF's secret weapon. Valuation doubled. IPO whispers deafening. But victory soured, Lila surfaced via proxy email, heard you saved my ass. Again. But Dad's ghost? Still haunts. 5% feels cheap. Equity bumped to 7. Wired prompt. Lena returned from Aspen. Book sales spiking on the real-time thriller angle. We dined at Le Bernardin. Lobster Thermidor. City lights winking complicit. Partners? She asked, foot brushing mine under damask. Collaborators? I corrected. But the night blurred to loft sheets. Her body a map of tattoos, clove burns on skin. Morning brought the split. Board ultimatum. No distractions. Optics matter. VCs balked at the personal entanglements. Lena laughed it off. Devils do. Remember? But packed for LA. Sequel research calling. Alone again. The probes persisted, subtler now. Quantum encrypted from Eastern Euro nodes. Not cartel. Russian? State actor? Shadow Forge scale drew wolves. Ruiz advised divest. Cash out at peak. Buy an island. Literal. Not metaphor. Islands sink, I said. Tempted. Though. The itch to run. Empire be damned. Then the hook, anonymous package. Loft doorstep, raise eagle ring. Dented. Blood-flecked. Note inside. Real men own. But ghosts collect. Lila? Loose from protection? Or Lena's twist? The game looped. No end. I melted the ring in the kitchen torch, gold dripping like tears, and cued the next play, global expansion. Singapore hub.
Aí sentinel sumbre cable. But sleep? Rare.
The .38 stayed loaded, chambered for whatever shadow knocked next. Singapore was a fever dream, Marina Bay Sands infinity pool reflecting a skyline of glass daggers. Humidity clinging like unspoken threats. Shadow Forge's Asia pivot launched there, flagship office in a gleaming tower. Coders imported from Shenzhen and Seoul. Algorithms optimizing belt and road routes with surgical precision. I keynote the rollout at a tech summit, black turtleneck channeling jobs. Slides pulsing with holograms of drone swarms ghosting the South China Sea. Logistics isn't transport. I preach to a hall of suits and specs. It's prophecy, predicting chaos, delivering order. Applause thundered. Handshakes sealed deals, 10-cent partnerships. Singaporean sovereign funds injecting 500 mil. But the high soured quick. Back in the suite, penthouse sprawl with butlers on call, the anonymous probes escalated. Not just siphons, but injections, malware burrowing like termites. Corrupting route data. A test run glitched. Shipment of medical isotopes from Mumbai diverted to a Lahore dead drop. Isotopes vanishing into black market ether. Loss. 2 mil. But the optics? Catastrophic. Headlines in the Straits Times. Forge legacy fumble. American upstart stumbles in Asia. I locked the C-suite down. Audits burning red eye. Breach vector internal again. This time a VP poached from Maersk, LinkedIn pristine. But offshore ties to Vladivostok shells. Russians. Confirmed, FSB cutouts. Hungry for supply chain leverage amid Ukraine sanctions. Weaponized logistics, the embedded ATF liaison briefed via secure video. Face pixelated from Langley. Yournet's a Trojan horse for theirs. Map our assets. Choke our aid. Weaponized. The word chilled. Shadow Forge wasn't just cargo, it was vein deep in the global pulse, DoD pallets to Ukraine. Humanitarian drops to Gaza. I'd built an artery. Now it pumped poison. Ruiz flew in economy. Grizzled and cursing jet lag. Divest Asia. Fold the tent. Or invite the spooks permanent. Spooks stay, I decided, staring at the bay's neon sprawl. But we flip it, honeypot servers.
Feed que infere tales.
Honeypot deployed. Dummy nets laced with trackers. Bogus routes to phantom war zones. Probes bit hard. Russian nodes lighting up like Christmas. Data flowing reverse. Feds loved it. Cyber coup. Kowalski. CIA owes you cigars.
Oh.
But paranoia pays compound. Lena called from LA, sequel stalled. Her sources drying up. Miss the devil, she teased. Voice husky over sat delay. Miss the chaos, I admitted. Poolside lounger creaking. You? Hollywood eating you alive.
Chewing.
Lila's emailing sketches, aspen wildflowers. But barcodes hidden in petals. Says, watch the skies. Click, line fuzzied. Then dead. Static?
Or tap.
Lila's missive arrived hours later. Digital canvas. Florals morphing under zoom to QR codes, scannable to a dark web drop. Ghosts in the wires. Dad's ring? My melt. But the real collector's coming.
Run, run.
The word echoed Dad's last wheeze. I scrubbed the loft. Burner ditched in the bay. Coders polygraphed. The VP? Retired, with a golden parachute laced with NDAs and trackers. But the collector struck visceral. Summit afterparty. Rooftop gala at Raffles. Champagne flutes clinking. Influencers posing with skyline selfies. I slipped the crowd for a smoke on the service landing. City hum below like a beast breathing. Footsteps ghosted up, silk-suited. Cologne sharp as a blade. Mr. Kowalski. The man said, accent Baltic crisp, Latvian? Estonian, extending a slim case. A gift. From admirers in Tallinn. Inside, a data chip, etched with eagle feathers. And a photo, me at the VFW. .38 mid-draw on Ray. Leverage, he purred. Your American grit amuses. But data flows both ways. Cease the honey, or this surfaces. With captions, family executioner turns tycoon. I pocketed the chip, virus scanned en route to the airport, contents a mirror, full breach logs. My honeypots exposed, routes to NATO depots mapped explicit. Checkmate. Jet homeward. I activated the scorched earth. Core algos migrated to quantum-encrypted vaults. Asia ops shuttered overnight, layoffs scripted as strategic realignment. Stock dipped 15. But rebounded on the security pivot spin. Forge legacy now fortress mode, pitching unbreakable chains to paranoid governments. Washington summoned. Oval briefing. Air Force One idling for a Ukraine hop. President gripped my hand, calloused. Real, thanking the private sector patriot. But side-eye from the NSA chief. Your ghosts. Kowalski, useful. But volatile.
Rein, emin.
Or we do.
Rained.
But volatility's my vein. Lena landed in Jersey unannounced. Duffel slung. Eyes shadowed. LA's plastic. Give me grit. We tangled in the loft. Bodies a brief dam against the tide. Her whispers mapping scars. Lila's vanished. Safe house empty. Sketches left. Your face. Ring around the neck. Vanished. Heart stuttered. I looped feds. Asset compromised. But their shrug. Protections end at compliance. Compliance meaning my data. Endless. The collector escalated. Chip 2. Delivered to HQ via courier drone drop. Buzzing the bullpen like a hornet. Contents. Video, grainy. Motel room. My smash on Ray's recorder. His rage post-betrayal. You'll pay? Jakey. Blood for blood. Edited seamless to imply murder. Timestamp fudged. Leak thread implicit. I countered viral. Anonymous dump to WikiLeaks. Russian breach docs. Pinned on FSB ops. Headlines global. Kremlin hacks American supply giant. Sanctions backfire.
Putin denied.
But ripples hit. EU probes. U.S. cyber bills naming forged protocols. Valuation tanked 30. Board coup brewing. Reckless exposure. I fought fire with fire. Ousted the plotters in a midnight purge. Equity clawed back.
Ruiz drafting ironclad bailos.
Lena dug parallel. Her network tracing the collector to a Tallinn syndicate. Oligarch exiles. Ray's old vodka partners from the 90s imports. He owed them too, she reported over encrypted text. The ring? Their mark. Debt collector's sigil. Debt eternal. I flew solo to Estonia. Commercial. Low profile. Rental fiat grinding cobblestones to a harborside warehouse. Baltic wind whipping salt. The collector waited, silver-haired, suit bespoke, eyes like chipped ice. Kowalski. Persistent. Persistent pays, I replied. Hands open, no .38. Just a briefcase of wired tender, 5 mil in crypto keys. Debt cleared. Ghosts grounded. He perused the ledger.
Smile thin.
Raise tab, yes. But yours? The hacks. The dumps cost us clients. Double. Or the video airs. Double. 10 mil. Empire's margin. I haggled cold, 7.5. Plus a consult gig routing their legit Baltic halls through Forge nets. Deals struck. Bloodless, his word. A gentleman's lie. Back stateside. The purge healed. Stock rebound. New board loyalists. Lena coaxed the sequel. Ghost routes. Her byline. My shadow. Lila resurfaced ping. Safe. Skies clear. Thanks. Uncle. Uncle. The title warmed. Briefly. But the loft's glass walls mocked. Transparent empire.
Cracks invisible till chatter.
Then the fracture. ATF liaison outed as mole, Russian plant. Data siphoned to Tallinn. Feds raided HQ Dawn. Servers seized for review. Chaos. Ops frozen. Clients fleeing. I lawyered nuclear, Ruiz is firm. SCOTUS briefs prepped. But the real play? Dead man's redux. Public dump. Full transparency. Every log. Every route. Open source to the world. Forge legacy. The people's chain. World bit. Hackers globalized the code. Mutations spawning feral nets. Pirate logistics undercutting giants. My stake, diluted, but immortal. The collector called last. Clever.
Kowalski.
Debt evolves, now we compete.
Click.
Competition. The game refined. I walked the Hudson Esplanade at dusk. Lena arm in arm. Wind off the water carrying spring promise. End, she asked. Chapter, I said. Real men build. Ghosts, they evolve too. The open source dump was Armageddon for the boardroom, execs howling in the war room. Projections hemorrhaging red as the code bled free across GitHub forks and torrent swarms. Suicide, the CFO bellowed. Ty, askew. Spreadsheets scattering like confetti from hell. Clients bolting. DHL's poaching our mutants. DoD blacklisting the anarchy net. I stood at the head. Unflinching. The city haze beyond the glass a blur of indifferent blue. Anarchy's the point, I said. We birthed it. Now we evolve or die. Evolve meant pivot brutal. Forge legacy splintered, core reclaimed as premium sentinel for blue chips. The feral code rebranded Forge Wild, a co-op DAO where users staked crypto for route governance. Chaos theory in action. Pirates in Lagos optimizing African rails. Hackers in Hanoi dodging tariffs with AI ghosts. My cut? Micropayments on every fork, pennies multiplying to millions. Decentralized but mine. Press apocalypse. Wired hailed Kowalski's cyberpunk gambit, while Bloomberg buried logistics Leviathan's self-destructs. VCs fled. But crypto whales dove, Ethereum pumps naming me, the Satoshi of supply. Valuation? Volatile as Bitcoin. But trending 8 figures personal. Lena thrived in the storm, sequel exploding. Netflix optioning for ghost routes, the Kowalski code. She crashed the loft sporadic. Laptop glowing amid takeout cartons. Her laugh a bulwark against the buzz. You're fracturing the matrix. Jake, love it or loathe it. Both, I confessed. Tracing her ink, a cargo crate tattooed on her rib. Barcode scanning to our first night. But fracture heals stronger. Lila pinged weakly. Wild's wild. My sketches algorithmed into route art. Users love the chaos blooms. Her DAO stake grew. Votes casting digital graffiti on global maps. Family. Fractal. But ghosts congealed. The Talon Collector, now partner on Baltic runs, pushed boundaries. Enhance our loads, emails coded. Meaning dope drones over Ukraine lines. I stonewalled, sentinels clean, but retaliation stung. A wild fork hijacked. Routes rerouted to cartel drops in Tijuana. Loss. For mill humanitarian aid. Headlines screaming, Forge fuels fentanyl flood. Feds descended anew. Congressional hearings. Capitol Hill circus with me centering. Lights hot. Senators grandstanding like auctioneers. Mr. Kowalski, the chairwoman thundered. A hawk from Texas. Your wild brainchild arms narcos, explain. Explain? I leaned into the mic. Cameras whirring. I open source security. Hacks happen. Blame the locks. Not the keymaker. Gasps rippled. But the C-SPAN clip viralized. Kowalski claps back trending. Memes crowning me anti-hero. Behind scenes, the liaison replaced Postmole with a grizzled ex-Mossad type, whispered plays, feed the beast. Wild variants laced with stings, trackers in the code, leading to the ghosts. Stings deployed, mutant algos with backdoors, pinging cartel nodes. Raids cascaded, DEA boots in Medellin, Interpol nets in Riga. Talon howled, Collector calling furious. Betrayal. Kowalski. Our deal. Evolves. I cut. Ghosts get caught. He hung up. But the Real Haunt arrived parcel. Ray's pinky. Severed. In dry ice, eagle ring reattached crude. Note. Collectors do.
LPI.
Lila? Or a plant. Panic spiked. I chartered the jet to her last ping. Des Moines safe house. Cornfields flat as regret. Door ajar. Sketches strewn. Wildflowers wilted. Barcodes smeared blood. Lila gone. But laptop warm. Video queued.
Her face tear-streaked.
Uncle, they took me. Talon wants the core code.
Wire 20,000. Or.
Fade to screams. Heart jackhammered. Fed scrambled. Asset recovery. But I went rogue. Ruiz blind. Lena looped encrypted. Traced the upload IP to a Latvian freighter off Gdansk. Collector's yacht. Rechristened Eagle's Shadow. I boarded commercial to Warsaw. Then chopper hire, black market. Cash, churning Baltic spray. Yacht hove into view at dusk, sleek predator. Decks lit like a casino. Infiltration was script, grappling hook from a rented speedboat. Slick with adrenaline. .38 strapped ankle old habits. Aboard silent. Shadows pooling in T corridors. Guards down easy, chloro rags from the kit. Zip ties biting. Bridge first, collector at the console. Silver hair haloed by screens, wild forks scrolling. My empire dissected. Kowalski, he sighed. Not turning. Predictable. Guards stirred, traps sprung. I fired low, knees folding, and zip-tied the lot. .38 steady on his temple. Lila. Now. He chuckled. Eye sunbroken. Leverage. Always. The girl? Bait. Like you for Ray. But the code, ours now. FSB thanks you. FSB. The ghost unveiled. Russian statecraft. Not syndicate. Ray's dance was theirs, he continued. Casual. Heroin-funded ops. Ukrainian routes. Election hacks. You, unwitting heir. Revelation landed like gutshot. Shadow forged veins? Kremlin capillaries from inception. Rays imports a Trojan. My revenge a relay. Lila burst then, bound but feisty. Guards' keys snatched in the scuffle. Told you. Uncle, skies watched. We bound the bridge. Chopper extract under starless sky, Lila piloting shaky. Me covering rear as bullets stitch the hull. Gdansk safe house. Feds waiting. Prepped by my delay ping. Collector cuffed. Spilling. Kowalski's net, global backdoor. Shut it, or chaos reigns.
Shut.
The wild was wild, forks feral. Users sovereign. I testified closed. Quarantine the roots. Let the branches burn. Congress bought it, bill passed. Forge Wild nationalized under cyber command. My stake cashed at $3 billion. Clean break. Lena met the jet in Jersey. Arms open. Heroes end. Survivors, I said, pulling her close. Lila hugged fierce. Family forks too. Dow vote, your legacy lives. Legacy. The loft sold. New start. Montana ranch.
Skies vast.
Drones testing clean routes over prairies. No glass walls, just horizons. But the burner kept. Charged, buzzed one last, unknown. Static hiss. Evolves. Kowalski.
Click.
Ghosts eternal. Real men? They ride the wild. Montana mornings broke crisp. Big sky country. Where the sun crested the Rockies like a promise unscarred. Painting the ranch house in gold that chased shadows from the rafters. I'd bought the spread sight unseen. 500 acres of sagebrush and stream. A log A-frame with a wraparound porch creaking under wind that whispered of freedom's bought deer.
No koudes basino.
No monitors pulsing, just solar arrays humming quiet. A workshop barn retrofitted for drone prototypes. There were testing air currents over alfalfa fields. Shadowforge, now Sentinel Legacy, ran remote. Board handling the boardrooms while I consulted from the high country. Emails batched daily, like chores. Lena adapted seamless. City edge dulled to ranch rhythm. Her typewriter clacking manifestos on a sunroom desk. Cloves swapped for sage smudges. From lofts to longhorns, she'd quip. Boots muddy from trail rides. Her latest tattoo, a fractal route map curling her forearm. The sequel spawned a franchise. Ghost Routes graphic novel. HBO pilot greenlit. Lila voicing the animated niece, feisty hacker with blue-streaked hair. Art pays freer than equity, Lila texted from her Portland co-op. Dow votes cast between gallery shows. Family? Federated. But peace? Itch under skin. Like withdrawal from the grind. Nights. I'd pace the porch. .38 dismantled on the rail, cleaning ritual. Brass glinting moon pale, while coyotes yipped echoes of old sirens. The collector's last hiss lingered. Evolves. FSB ghosts? Quarantined. Or metastasized. First crack came postal. Manila envelope. No return.
Postmarked Tallinn via Nitral Sweden.
Inside, a microSD card. And a single clove cigarette, Lena's brand. Stamped with eagle ash. Chip loaded on the secure laptop. Audio file. Time-stamped pre-bust. Ray's voice. Motel static. Jakey. If you hear this. The dance never ends. FSB's in your blood now, codes the vein. Burn it all. Or become it.
Become.
The word coiled. I torched the clove in the fire pit. A smoke curling accusatory. But the file? Backed. Buried in quantum cold storage. Leverage. or liability. Lena found me at dawn. Coffee steaming. Face etched worry. Ghost mail? Show me. We listened looped. Ray's rasp decoding the matrix. Shadow Forge's Genesis, not mine alone. But seated by Ray's 90s consults with Soviet defectors. All goes bartered for black market runs. You built the body, he croaked. But the heart? Red.
Red.
FSB heart. Pulsing in every fork. The quarantine? Band-aid on a bomb. Lena's eyes hardened, journalist instinct flaring. We expose. Book 4, Red Routes. Expose. And we end, I countered. They own the wild, users' unwitting nodes. Data harvested for hacks. PSYOPs. Then reclaim, she said.
Fierce.
Your core, sentinels clean. Purge the mutants. Litigate the forks. Litigate? David versus Goliath. But Goliath had gulags. Instead, I seeded the purge. Anonymous patches to wild repos. Kill switches dormant till triggered. Users raged. Kowalski kills the dream. But the veins cauterized. FSB flow stanched. Retaliation whispered. Ranch cams glitching. Drones dropping midair, EMP bursts. Signature Russian. ATF embedded again. Black Hawk patrols overhead. Protective custody.
Jake.
Sit tight. Custody chafed. Lila visited then, road trip, from Portland. Jeep packed with canvases and crypto wallets. Dow's fracturing, she said over campfire esmores. Sparks dancing like code glitches. Half want wild eternal. Half your safety net. Votes tied, your swing. Swing meant choice. Let the beast roam. Risk the red heart. Or leash it. Betray the anarchy. Blood says wild. I told her. Poking embers. But Dad? Clean forge. She sketched then, us 3 by firelight. Routes arcing overhead like aurora. Family forks. Uncle. No wrong path. Path chosen dawn. Swing wild. But laced, sentinel backdoors in every patch. My ghost in the machine. Dow voted. Fractals stabilized. FSB probes bouncing to Langley honeypots. The collector's endgame landed visceral. Winter gale. Snow howling off the peaks. Power flickering. Generator kicked. But the knock came porch shadow. Bundled figure. Face obscured by balaclava. Lena grabbed the Remington, Dad's heirloom. Loaded now while I flanked door. .38 reassembled cold. Kowalski, the voice muffled. Accent thick, Latvian lilt. Final collect. The heart, code source. Or the women pay. Women. Plural. Lila?
Snatched en route. Heart iced.
Inside, I growled. Door cracking. Talk. He entered cautious. Balaclava shedding snow. Face familiar. Bridge guard from the yacht. Scar fresh from the raid. Boss sends. Purge incomplete. Wild's ours. Users nodes. But core's the crown. Hand it. Live. Lena chambered round.
Steady.
Crown's ash. Walk. Or join Ray. He lunged, knife flashing, but I was faster. .38 bark. Shoulder hit. Crumpling him snow white. Interrogation spilled. Collector's yacht sunk off Riga. Accident. But the ghost? Deeper. Moscow suites. Minister level. You poke bear. Bear eats. Feds swarmed post-call. Chopper blades chopping gale. Scarface zip-tied for rendition. End of thread. Liaison radioed. But threads fray. Spring thawed revelations. Ray's audio decrypted full. Confession real. FSB handler named Dmitry Volkov. The architect, Ray's 90s mentor. Traced to a Virginia dacha, exile under diplomatic cover.
I dove solo.
Easy pass ghosting the turnpike. .38 permitted now as consultant carry. Dacha was pastoral fraud. Colonial clabbered. Potomac view. Volkov pruning roses in tweed. Silver fox. Eyes like circuit boards. Jakey, he greeted. Shears clipping stem. Ray's echo.
There.
Tea was poison play, polonium whispers, but I declined. .38 holstered visible. The heart ends here. Code's mine clean. He laughed. Roses scattering. Clean? Ray birthed it in my lap. All goes for Afghan runs. Bartered for your imports. You, grandson in the game. Grandson. Bloodline damned. Game over, I said.
Drawing.
Confess. Or join the dance. Volkov sighed. Shears down. Confess? To what? Building the world. Logistics is power.
Boy.
FSB. CIA, same vein. Different flags. Yours now, use it. Use it. The temptation coiled, leverage global. Route says reigns. But Dad's forge? Clean steel. I cuffed him gentle. Feds waiting unmarked. Recorder capturing the spill. Names.
Nodes.
The red web unraveled. Headlines followed. Kowalski cracks Kremlin cargo conspiracy. Empire purified. Sentinel soared. Wild tamed to co-op clean. Valuation? Irrelevant. Legacy coded eternal. Lena and I wed summer. Courthouse quick. Lila matron. Montana wildflowers in her hair. Vows. Evolve together. Honeymoon? Ranch trails. Drones overhead like blessings. But the burner, buried. Not ditched, vibrated earth once. Unknown. Static eternal. Heartbeats.
Click.
Ghosts? They code on.
Real men?
They debug the dark. The end? Yours to fork.